to my channel. I am here with Calatirniel, and we are going to discuss all about Elven Bloodlines. And, this is something that I've wanted to talk about more on my channel, and I have some personal things to say about it. And I also asked Calatirniel, who has a lot of experience, because she is one of the co-founders of the Elven Spiritual Path with me, and she really has been on this path for about 15 years, writing the book for the Elven Spiritual Path and creating the blogs and things like that. And so she has seen kind of what has gone on in the Otherkin community and the Elven kin communities. And we just kind of want to make a strong statement and a message about, what the organization is going to be I guess focusing on more and what is really our priority on at this time, because I think that is so important. Some of my personal thoughts about this is that I feel that I have gone through many different types of awakenings in my life and realizing my own kind of elven heritage and my fairy bloodline and things like that. And I just feel that what has helped me with that is my own personal awakening, but also to realize that I am part of the human community, the humanity. I came in into a human body. I have some elven qualities. I have some, elvish traits, but I am a human. And I believe that that is so important, is that we can bring our elvenness into our human selves. And that's kind of what is happening, is we're kind of merging the humans and the elven selves together. And I think that that is really what our organization will be really focusing on. And that is really going to help to bridge the gap between people, and, especially with those that have an elven soul or consciousness, and that come from a bloodline of elves themselves, and the way that they have seen humans and how they have felt towards humans. And, if you are somebody that has followed my channel, you would see that a lot of times my video is about kind of separating myself from the humans. And I do that so that I can give those that feel like me a familiar place, a place called home. But also in my reflection of all of this, I realize that it's ultimately not the goal of what I really want to see happen in the world. I don't want to focus on our separation. I'd rather focus on our community and our unity, because, to be honest, we are all in this world together. And that is something that I feel going into the new year is something that's more of my focus, rather than separating myself and, pulling away from the human race. I would actually like to merge with it in many ways. And I believe that Calatirniel also has a lot of thoughts that kind of align to this as well. So I'm going to introduce her, and then she's going to tell us a little bit of what she has discovered in her research through all the years of being on this path, and her own kind of awakening, and, her thoughts and opinions and what she has seen about the Elven bloodlines, and really kind of this, maybe the science, or what we can, I guess, feel is the science behind Elven bloodlines. All right, Calatirniel.
Or at least so far.
Yeah.
I'm Calatirniel here of elvenspirituality.com, and we were founded in 2005 by Dave Woosley, aka Nathan Elwin, and myself. And then later we brought in other people. Adam Hayden came, Alira Dasigna, who is Aluva Mil, she came in. We've had other people over the years, but right now it's just, and Kimberell came to us last June, and you guys all remember when that merger happened. So I noticed that there is a very large resurgence again of at the time back in 2005, there was an Otherkin kind of movement online that it started earlier than 2005, but I didn't know about it because I wasn't in the whole Elven thing yet, and I'll describe that in a moment. But we just felt that it was an important idea to figure out, I guess, what is our purpose here on the planet, and where are we to own our diversity, and then where are we to own our unity? Because I think that it's kind of like the I knew, they all had their diversity, okay, of each of them having a particular aspect of the song that they sang, but yet they didn't know all of the other Ainur's songs, okay, like that they were singing. They had to, only Iluvatar knew what it would be like, and even then, it still needed to be performed, because obviously through the performance of that, and there was 3 songs, like, look it up in the Legendarium, there was some surprises. Okay, so even as it's performed, it's not going to go as planned necessarily. So even Iluvatar was probably there was probably an aspect of him that knew what could happen, and he overseeing everything, he, she, like whatever, like the all that is the one. And so I think that humans, because we are created by Iluvatar, just as the elves were, we also have that spark of divinity within each of us that helps unify us, but that we all have a different job, if you will, to meet that. And so some humans, okay, feel intuitively a connection to elvenness. And what we mean by that is that we strive for elven wisdom and elven spirituality, as far as the viewpoint of the elves in the stories, as a whole. Okay, we're talking about a very divine human, obviously J.R.R. Tolkien, bringing all of this to us, and we're so fortunate to be able to have that, because I think that he brought a lot of things in that would have been very difficult for anybody else to bring to our attention, and he had to do it in the guise of fantasy. Okay, so on that note, what had happened is, over time, my own story about coming to the Elven path was actually kind of a surprise to me, because it's not something that you grow up and think, I'm going to start a religion. It just didn't, it's not something that was something running through my mind. And well, besides that it's not really a religion, but it's more of a spiritual approach, if you will. It wasn't on my mind. What happened was, like other people, I watched the Lord of the Rings movies after reading The Hobbit when I was 12, and just other things had happened over the years, and I hadn't gotten around to reading Lord of the Rings yet. It was just one of those things on my list since the 70s, and I just never did it. Saw the movies and was like, wait a minute, I've never seen this archetype of elves before, and it feels more right than other archetypes that you usually see, the Keebler elves and, some other things like that. So my husband at the time said, well, if you like that, you really need to read the Silmarillion, and, because I think that you would really resonate with the origin stories of the elves. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's interesting. Okay. So we didn't find the book because we had to move to Montana and a whole bunch of other stuff. So by 2005, it was actually at Beltane of 2005, we find our copy of the Silmarillion, and it's yellow and crumbling. He got it in a used bookstore. It was from the 70s, and he read it over and over again. And so it was crumbling by 2005. I was really careful with it, and I was reading I knew Lindale and Valaquenta and the Quinta Silmarillion, and I started having things really vibrate with me hard in my body. And I knew that it wasn't just like made up fantasy, that this was just something way beyond that. And it was really hard to explain. So I wanted to see if other people, had this experience also. And I found that people had a very different approach to these things. Some of them were from, like, say, Elven memories, and some of them were from Elven DNA, and some of them were from Elven soul, or, some kind of, and I'm like, oh, wow, what am I? Like, I don't know. And during that time, I was friends with an Otherkin guy up in Montana who looked at me and said, "You are so like Elven." And I said, "Oh, that's funny. I never thought about that." And I told him about, how I felt about the Lord of the Rings movies and how I really connected with the elves and, as they were portrayed. And he says, "Yeah, you're an elf. Like, I just know it. You're an elf." And he was the first person that told me what Otherkin meant. And he himself was like, it was not Elven, okay, like, just so that you know, but it was very interesting for me to even think about, like, that there's people out there that didn't feel human, and that, that there's this overlay of energy, even though we're in a human body. And I'm like, well, I don't want to disown my humanness because we're here for purpose. But let me find out what this Otherkin thing is about. So not only that, but simultaneous to this were some of the Elven bloodline type of things. So like the Otherkin type of thing, like, I'm just not born human, and I just have this soul, that soul, the other soul, but not human soul. And I really felt that it was important for the Otherkin community to own.
Uh-oh. I wonder if we lost her. Calatirniel. Okay, it seems like it froze. Well, until we get her back, I think I know where she is going on this, which is good. So I'll just kind of continue on where she is here. But the idea is that we are definitely starting to see, a connection between Elven souls and human souls, and basically how people are coming together now today. And what makes a human different than what makes an elf different is really kind of the question that we're trying to get to at a kind of a deeper level within this organization. And a lot of people are finding their elven selves by kind of reaching down somewhere deep that's kind of an origin place. It's where humans actually were always possibly supposed to be at. We're closer to nature, we're closer to animals, could communicate to nature and animals in a way where they can understand the needs of Earth, and understand the needs of one another. And I think that that is a gift that the elves had. And that is something that I believe that humans are evolving into having as well. And we're getting back to that place now. And what I believe is really important, and what Calatirniel wanted to make a statement about, and unfortunately her internet, I guess, finally did cut out. She was having problems. We were trying so hard to get her tech working, but unfortunately, just wherever she is in terms of where she lives in California, it's not connecting. So hopefully you can hear me clearly, and I'm coming across. Oh, I think that's her coming on.
Sorry.
Oh, there she is.
Okay, and it came back on, but it was not even like through the Wi-Fi or any of that. Like, even the internet that's connected in the other room went down. So that's the time we're having here.
Well, I'll tell you where I was basically just kind of going where you were trying to get to, is the idea of just kind of owning our human selves, as well as understanding what makes a human, what makes an elf, and kind of how the organization is about kind of delving deeper into that, and not being separate from one another, but actually allowing that to kind of merge together and come together.
Yes.
Because
Absolutely. We were like kind of discussing this, but early on in 2005, I mean, I was still kind of unsure about, how does this whole thing work? Because I mean, we didn't have anybody to talk to back then, and there was a lot of elven role players, so that like you'd find people and you'd think, oh, they get me. Oops, no, they don't get me. So there was all of these false starts. And so one of the other false starts that happened was that there was this idea of elven bloodlines. And at the time, there was a book that came out from Lawrence Gardner it was called, I think, Realm of the Ring Lords or something like that. And he was talking about the intermixing of like the elven and dragon legacy bloodlines of like royalty, etc., and that like they're kind of similar. And so he wrote this book about that, and that led me to a completely different group of people that like read the work of the Dragon Legacy by H.R.H. Prince Nicholas de Vere. Of the copy that I have read was published in 2004 by the Book Tree in San Diego, oddly. So Tracy Twyman was also involved in that work, and she's no longer here on the planet, bless her heart. I really liked her research that she did into a lot of things. So I was very eager at, getting into this and finding out, okay, so is there any similarity between Tolkien's work and de Vere's work? And after I read, like, I didn't read the entire book, but I read enough of it to realize, no, it's not the same thing. There is, I mean, maybe there could be some resonances, but I totally believe that Tolkien's take and Tolkien's view on the world was entirely different than Nicholas de Vere's. It's just not even the same. And I don't want to say I reject the ideas of the elven bloodlines, because I think that it's actually possible. Like maybe one day science can tell us, do you have an elven DNA kind of signature? Like maybe that's possible. I'm not going to say that it's not. What I will say, though, is that I don't think that it's the goal of the elven path to differentiate and separate humanity even further by saying, I'm special because I have elven DNA and you don't. That is just not acceptable to me. I feel that all humans are here on the planet to have a purpose, and some of us are going to vibrate with feeling or being elven in some way, whether that's through DNA, whether it's through the soul, whether it's through, like I think even the role players have, a job here. Like they're doing something about, like raising the consciousness of elvenness. And Alira said so beautifully the other day when I was talking to her about being on camera with you today. And she said something that it is like elvenness for the elven path, the elven spiritual path, elven spirituality that we have founded like in 2005, and that Kimber L joined us last year, 2019, is about opening ourselves to like a different layer of spiritual energy that has an elven signature, and that elvenness is demonstrated in the stories. And it allows us to make like wiser decisions, because we have like like as you access this energy, and it's a choice to access this energy, okay, it's not a blood right, and that like nobody else can do it. That's not it. If you're human, you have access. And I believe that even Tolkien would agree, because with elves and humans being able to, you know, partner and reproduce and create half elven, I think that that is clear enough about that all humans have this access if they wish to activate it. So not everybody's going to wish to activate it. But of the people that feel that it is, I believe everybody has like not only the right, but also the privilege in a way to access elven energy. Now, once you make that decision, then it's kind of like walking a path to like, okay, so what would the elves do? And, you know, what were wise decisions that the elves did? And then, you know, there was a few stories, you know, that were not wise that the elves did, okay, in the stories. So, you know, the way that it was portrayed was that I really believe Tolkien had a really good handle on a spiritual, you know, take of this. Also, the fact that there are these things about elven bloodlines being like more special than others, okay, that was something that I also think Tolkien would be against, because even in the letters of Tolkien, when the German publishers were asking him if he was Aryan so that they could publish the books and things like this, and he said that he wished he could say no because he was of Germanic, okay, lineage, and he wanted to tell them no because he was just very angry about them even having some kind of question like that. And he was very verbal also about his opinions on Hitler and the Nazi Party. Look it up, Google it. Okay, you can find it. And it's in the letters of Tolkien too. So I'll let you go ahead, Kimberell.
No, I think, you know, just my thoughts on this whole thing is that some of my observations, like being part of just knowing people that speak about elvenness and seeing kind of putting my feelers out and seeing what's on the internet and seeing how people talk, there's kind of this consensus that elves only originated in certain areas in Europe, and that's kind of where that Aryan type of idea comes from a lot of times. And I did a video about how elves are found around the world, and I think that that is a very special message in the idea that in every culture, in every language, there's a word for an elemental spirit. And these elemental spirits helped humans, or they hindered them and they caused them problems. And so I think that that alone is just like a very important message, and what we kind of want to get across with the Elven organization. Because if we looked, we could get a lot of support by those that take on almost like a nationalistic approach for elvenness. And you know what I'm talking about, a very European-centric type of approach. And what we want to do is show that globally, elves and fairies have been part of humanity, and it's within all of humans. And it's about, like you said, it's activating those parts of ourselves that are more elven-like rather than human-like, and there's nothing derogatory about human at all. But whatever it is about humans that some people have tried to kind of disassociate themselves with, we're at a very important crossroads where otherkins, and hey, I am one of them, okay? I came onto YouTube and I said, hey, I'm an otherkin. I feel a little different than other humans. I admit I did that. And I guess in 2020, hello, it's my new awakening. I feel that that's not actually the path to take. That there's another way to bring elvenness into the world, and it's really about kind of connecting to all humans and showing our unity in that way. And I think that that is so important. So anybody who feels like they come from an elven bloodline and they have elves in their family, or, you know, maybe their mom and dad seem like they had some elvish traits to them, and you might have felt different from humans growing up. I think it's very important for you in today's time to find your connection back to humanity. Maybe this is a story about the elves finding their way back to humanity again.
And vice versa, like meaning humans finding the elven way, and then elf energy finding the human way, and again working together. And I think that that also was shown in Tolkien's stories often.
It's like a friendship again, because how many times in legends and folklore we hear about how the elves, you know, the elves would help and they would rescue like knights and men that were kind of lost in the forest sometimes. But a lot of times elves looked negatively at humans for what humans were doing. And so we are now in 2020, which I believe with a new elven spirit to come in, which is one of friendship and community and harmony with humans rather than disassociation and separation. And I think that that's what our organization is really about.
Yeah, definitely. I feel, and maybe it's good to take a stand and be different and stand out from other types of movements that would encourage separation over the unity. And by unity, I don't mean that we are all the same, meaning that we have the same job, because that is not the case. I totally believe that each one of you, okay, came to the planet, came through your ancestors to get the strength from them, that whatever that it is that you need, and you have a very important piece that no one else can do. But each one of us also has a special piece that no one else can do, but combined together, that's where we have the unification, and we couldn't do it without those pieces.
I absolutely agree. And so what we want to say is that for members that join us, you know, the Tia Elda Lieva spiritual path, Calatirniel will say it in her own words after I do, but the idea is that we're not going to, sometimes I get not made fun of, but almost like kind of ridiculed for not talking about Elven Bloodlines, or there's a little bit of a schism from my channel where I guess maybe the Otherkins want me to go there in that direction more. And there's just something that's inside of me that's like, I don't want to separate myself too much from humans. And I think that that is something that our organization wants to do and push that forward, is that we're not going to either allow ourselves or those that take on the organization's name and want to teach later on in the future, basically the viewpoint of being separate from humans, but rather how we can bring elven wisdom and elvenness and elven consciousness to our human selves and to other humans who are like watching this right now. What the heck are they talking about? This is what I'm saying, is that we don't want to separate ourselves. We want those that come onto my channel and are like, what is going on? I want them to feel some familiarity, some connection, even though they might, and I have kind of done this on purpose, but I've kind of, lost the prosthetic ears and things like that, because I'm really just trying to kind of merge myself now more. When I started the YouTube channel, I definitely tried to, I think, be different and make a statement of difference, because I was trying to basically make myself feel, I guess, comfortable, and those that felt different in the world feel comfortable as well. Like a safe haven. Here is a person that understands you. Hey, I understand that you feel different from humans. I get it. But now I think, like I said, in 2020, it's a new year, but I've been thinking about this as we started the organization, like what direction should we take? And I think that is something that we wanted to say. And Calatirniel, you want to say something even more on this?
I want to, like actually, like, I guess, bring an exclamation point to that. I think that my whole thing has always been about being a human, even if we're different, and accessing elven wisdom to apply to our lives. So we find that many that come to our path, and by the way, this is not a bad thing on its own, but they have more of a desire to explore their identity versus what their purpose is. Okay, like, as carried out in the world. Like, it's more of a who am I and why, than like meaning why am I here? What am I supposed to be doing? And our path has always been, and I've tried to make it really clear from the beginning, that it's always been more about what we're doing. How can we elevate spirituality for all of us? And there is no problem with finding out who you are, because I mean, sometimes finding out who you are does bring you to your purpose. We just don't want to emphasize that we are an identity path. We are not. Okay, I know it says Elven spiritual path, so it looks like, oh, they're only for elves. No, it's for everybody that wants to access Elven wisdom and apply it to their lives. That's what we're about.
Absolutely. And that was a little bit about what, I have tried to get across on my channel, but sometimes there's a part of me that also has felt different and wanted to meet others that felt different. So I guess now I'm coming out to say I am not a trans species elf, as Piers Morgan said I was. I am not, I'm an otherkin in the idea that I do feel a little different, but I do not identify solely with my otherkin nature. I actually feel that it kind of, it expands my human nature, and elves are humanoid, and they are. So we are delving deeper into what makes an elf and what makes a human in the elven spiritual path. And I think that that's going to be a really exciting venture for us. And we just want to just make that really clear for everyone, that you may feel that you come from an elven bloodline, and I absolutely understand where you're coming from. But we want you to have an open heart and an open mind to the rest of humanity, and kind of ask yourself in self-reflective mode, what is it that your elven soul is here to do now? You and your body and your vessel, you as your essence, who are you in this unit called humanity? And what can you do now, awakening into your elven self? Because it will do no good if we make an exclusive little elf community and separate ourselves from humans. We can't. We are a whole picture. Earth is all of us. And that is so important that we kind of get that. And that's something that I have awakened to in the process as well, because I definitely felt very alien, and I wasn't really wanting to bring myself together with others. But I realized that it's so important, because you could go outside right now and on the street, you can meet people and you will just realize that you're connected to them. No matter how different you feel being an elf, you will meet other humans and you will realize your interconnection just by having a conversation with them and meeting somebody that needs your help or you need their help. We need each other. This world is about all of us together. It is not about an exclusive elven group that's going to separate themselves from humanity, but rather a merging of consciousness, of elven consciousness coming back into humans. I believe it's coming back. I also believe it's coming in. It's kind of a little bit of, like you said, moving on to the next stage. It's like you said, kind of like expanding and going further. And I think that that's kind of where I want to take it. And, you know, with my channel, I really do feel that I kind of want to, I guess, open my arms more out to everyone in that way. And I do hope that those that have seen me in the past and are like, who is this girl? She just thinks she's different, a special snowflake. I just want them to understand that that was never my intention, and that really my intention was always to bring humans into realization of who they could be, or their potential, their power, because elves are known for their magic, which is an art, but it's also it's a confidence. It's a confidence that is connected to direct vision. And I feel like humans really kind of need that to get to our next phase together. And I just really feel that our organization can be a bridge with people that might look at those who are otherkins and think that they're special snowflakes and crazy. There's a lot of videos on the YouTube where they're making fun of otherkins. And I have tried to be an advocate for them and say, hey, you know, we're not crazy. We're not. We just are feeling something else besides being human. It's not, hey, we can live a completely normal life, but we have a little bit of something different. But I believe that we can be a bridge between humans who would think otherkins are crazy and otherkins that want to separate themselves from humanity. And I just hope that that's where the Elven spiritual path can take us.
Yeah, that's a great plan. We have had, and again, maybe it was calmed down for a little while, because I mean, I remember when in 2005, like we just were like, everybody that came to us felt, you know, kind of the otherkin energy. And then it just kind of went away for a while. Like there was a lot of, and possibly because a lot of people made fun of that whole thing, and then just said, you know, well, okay, I guess I won't talk about it anymore, because it just kind of disappeared. And I noticed that other things kind of replaced, you know, those types of things. I remember at one time that there was like some people that, you know, like resonated with elvenness. They came to our path. And then, you know, 5 weeks later, they're like, okay, I'm a vampire now. Like, and then just, you know what I mean? It's like, wait, you know, where's the consistency here?
Yeah.
And by the way, we are all about you trying to find out who you are and understand like how you are like combining all of your gifts and all of your talents and all of your energies. We totally get it, okay? And otherwise, I don't think we would have even named our path the Elven Path, because I think that like we would just be the human path, and you know, there would be no differentiation. There would be no, you know, nothing that would like make people like, I mean, we wouldn't even probably have a spiritual path, because it would already be, you know, taken in by other things. But there wasn't, okay? That's why we had to co-found one with this exact like approach and this exact, if you will, flavor, okay? Like there is this idea that we are identity oriented because it's called the Elven Path. And I just want to emphasize that it is not about being Elven in order to be here. This is about exploring Elven wisdom because you want to, regardless of what you resonate with. So, like, let's just say that you are a shaman and you know, like, say that you have a totem animal that's bear, but you want to learn about Elven wisdom. You're welcome, okay? That's totally fine. Let's just say that, you know, oh, well, I'm human and I don't really know, like, why would I want to know about what elves think or whatever? Come on in. Like, you know, like we have, you know, that's why we're here, okay, is to help share Elven wisdom through the stories that Tolkien so laboriously wrote, okay, throughout his life. And the reason that he was the perfect guy to do it is because not only did he have clearly the ability to travel to fairy, which, you know, you can just look it up, okay? Like, you know, oh, I'm writing this story. Oh, well, what about what happens here? Oh, I'll go find out. Well, nobody says that if they're making it up, okay? So we know that he traveled to fairy, but he had another talent that was amazing, and probably even nobody has the same talent in this lifetime, okay? And that is his linguistic ability. Okay, so he was the perfect person to bring this in, and he had to do it through the genre of fantasy so that he could still have his very secular Catholic, you know, scholarly Oxford life, you know, and be a normal guy kind of thing, and just fun, and, you know, all of that kind of stuff that he was. Okay,
A hobbit.
a hobbit, right? So even he resonated with being a hobbit, but yet look at the tombstones of Beren and Luthien for him and his wife. That is one of the most beautiful love stories there ever was. Okay, and yeah, guys, look that up, Beren and Luthien. If you don't know about that, look that up. It's amazing.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that, you know, just like as Tolkien wrote about, it was the hobbits, it was the elves, it was the humans, and it was the wizards. Well, wizard. Come
one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there were several, but yeah, one especially.
Yeah. You only need one, right?
Well, it took them 5 times, but yes.
But they all came together, and really that is, I believe, you know, that's what my visions are showing me more, is that it's not so important that we differentiate ourselves from humans, or that I do that on my channel. It's more about how do we come together, you know, and really, I'm not going to say like we're fighting against Sauron, but in a way we are kind of liberating ourselves from the old archaic ways of doing things, the war and all that. If you saw my last music dance video that I just did of my interpretive dance, I was trying to convey a message through images and through just kind of my own personal journey and what I have observed in the world, and how I have worked through that, and understanding how we can become the change that we wish to see in the world. And I really do believe that. And that's kind of what I believe that the Elven spiritual path will do, is that we want to walk the way of the elves because it resonates with who we are. It feels good because it aligns to us and the way that we think about the world, or the way we would like the world to be. And then we do it. We do it together, and we create a new earth, part of this organization that I believe can inspire, and we can work as a community in, you know, many of our states, or even across the world, we're hoping. If you get a chance, you can go to my blog. I kind of just went through some kind of visions that I was having for the Elven spiritual path, things that we could do, like we could become known as those that could help, you know, beautify our neighborhoods and help others, and, you know, go read Tolkien to the elderly in the home or children in the hospital. I mean, these are things that I think our organization can do. We could become the change that we wish to see in the world, rather than an identity path that's trying to be different and kind of sit there in their shadows away from humanity. No, let's put ourselves out there in humanity. So it's different from cosplay. It's different from being an otherkin, and the idea of, you know, having a separate little community that you feel separate from humans. But it's about kind of getting out there into the world and in your neighborhood, cleaning up your neighborhood. Hey, if you want to wear elf ears, that's fine. That would be great. You know, maybe we'll make like an elf day. We can do that all together. It'd be fun, you know, to bring back some joy and some fairy energy into the world. And I think that that's what our organization can do. And I really wanted to make that statement because people have kind of talked about my channel behind my back and things like that. And I don't blame them, because they're upset that I have not gone that route so strongly. And there has been a really, I think, kind of I guess a very important reason why I did not. And I'm just kind of now realizing why I did not. So it's almost like I was moving from my intuition, and I just didn't know really what I was doing yet by not going into the Elven bloodlines and starting to talk about that, and coming on to the channel and saying, I'm from this Elven clan and everyone join me who resonates with me. We're going to be different from humans. Like, I'm not going that route, because I feel intuitively that would not help the world. That
Exactly.
it just wouldn't.
Exactly. It's okay. So another question that I've had with Elven spiritual path is that it's like, well, nobody knows how the elves, had a spiritual path, so you can't do that. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's not why we named it the Elven spiritual path. We're talking about the Elven way for humans. This is a path for now. This is not a path for the elves in the time of the elves. That's not what this is.
Right. Right. I mean, apply what they did.
Yeah. We're trying to apply their wisdom to our current world in this time through our human meat suits this time, okay, because that's what we got. And that's probably all that could really vibrate here, because according to the stories, the elves couldn't live here anymore at the time that humans came. It was the times for men, okay? It was in the stories, okay? At the end of, let's see, that would be the end of the second age and going into the third age, or am I thinking of the end of the third age and going into the fourth age? But it doesn't matter, okay? No, the time that's now is the time of humans, but we can expand ourselves to bring back in the elven wisdom that was demonstrated so well in the stories, so that we can go forward. And I would even say that there's people in our path that think that it's possible that we're all coming back together again, because it's getting near the end of the third song that was sung by the Ainur when the earth was created, and we're going to re-sing it together. Okay. Yeah. What a beautiful vision that would be for all of us to have that elven energy overlay that we can ask for and do the work and strive to fit into that energy body of elvenness, so that we can access that wisdom.
Yes, I agree. I mean, I kind of believe that the apocalypse has already happened in a way, and the idea of the veil thinning and a new age coming. I mean, I do believe that it has already happened very subtly, but we have already moved from that, and we're now, I mean, I call it the new earth. I do. I mean, I think that we have still a lot of work to do. I mean, we don't have our our space cities yet in that way that coexist with nature. But I do believe that we're seeing the very beginning steps, and I see it every day that humans are evolving, and their ability to self-reflect and to expand their consciousness is there. I mean, we really are doing that together. And I believe the more and more people that do that and awaken, we move into, like you said, kind of the third song, which is a new way of doing everything, at least in this timeline. And getting back to our origins, which I believe is definitely elvish in nature, but I believe that we are kind of just ascending in a way consciously and moving into that path that we were kind of always destined to. I do believe there's kind of a written destiny. Maybe it's just because I'm super optimistic about humanity in that way, but I do believe, just feeling deep inside of me, that humans were always supposed to go in in a more positive direction. And it's only when we forget ourselves and really forget kind of the spiritual wisdom, which is what the elves can help us remember. The elves are very good at reminding the hobbits and man in Arda kind of the spiritual knowledge, the spiritual wisdom in a very subtle way. And I think that that's, if we can keep that on the surface of our consciousness as humans, I believe that we can bypass some of the problems that we think we're going to have, like nuclear war and AI, domination and things like that. It is about us. It's about us becoming what we were always supposed to become. I really do feel that way. And I believe that when we walk that path of transformation, we ensure a better future, that we're going to kind of jump out of those timelines that are kind of apocalyptic in a way, or that are scary. I mean, I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been watching on kind of the edge of my seat, the idea that we could easily go into World War III, but we haven't. There's been a hold. And I think that hold on war, from the energies that I feel as kind of an empath, like that can kind of take in the energies of the world, I believe that most humans do not want war. They didn't want to go into World War III. Even those who are in Iran, and are part of Iraq, like they don't even want this. It's the politicians that decide war, and the people are kind of dragged, into it. But war has been halted, and that's something that we should not take lightly. It's a chance for us to start again, to retrace our steps in a way, go back, to compromise and peace, so we can move forwards, because our future does not have to be nuclear war or AI destroying humanity. It could be, as I showed in my last video, it could be AI working with humanity. It could be us creating a world of technology and nature that can coexist together, and we can move into a greater future. And the Elven spiritual path can be just one kind of pathway that can help remind people, to take the higher road in a way, a kinder road, a more head on the shoulders kind of road, where you really think before you act. Because part of the problem, and I've been very vocal about this, is that much of our world issues are when we act and react emotionally without thinking, without engaging the neocortex, the higher mind. We're moving from the reptilian brain. The reptilian part is about instinct and survival. And when people are scared and they're fearful and they react emotionally, this is what causes the violence in the world. When we move into the Elven path, we're engaging the higher mind that starts to reflect before it acts. And so there's a pause before that emotional reaction. And I really do believe that is a very significant change where human consciousness has to go, is just that little pause before you punch somebody's lights out, or you pull a gun on somebody because you're angry. I mean, I've been watching so much crime shows and things like that because I'm always interested in that. But I noticed that the psychology of humans is about reacting to outside stimuli and environmental stimuli. And it's just about just that little pause. If we could control time in a way, we could. If we just take some deep breaths and remember ourselves, remember our higher selves, we can always make the higher choice to not react emotionally. And so I think that that's maybe the bigger message about the Elven wisdom or consciousness. And I really do feel that it will divert us from kind of the wars and the suffering and the more scarier future that people are thinking of.
That's awesome. I'm like, yes.
It was all
so I was just thinking about how even in our own language that we call ourselves the selves, i.e. elf is like built right in. Okay. So, how cool is it if we followed the examples of the elves wherein, and this is where I really feel like that it's kind of a 3-level thing. So yes, we definitely have the brain that we need to activate and like do the pause thing before we do crazy stuff. We have the heart chakra that needs to be open and loving and do the most loving action. Okay. But the lower chakras, we need to be sovereign. The elves were always sovereign, even when they were in groups and teams and leaders, but they all were very grounded in who they were at the core of what they were. Okay, all of them. They didn't just follow the leader and just react and just get, carried around. That is part of the elven spirituality that I would like to see return, is that when we become our sovereign selves, we won't be looking for all of this identity and like, what am I doing? And, all of this stuff. And, let me be like myself, but like, you have to accept me or something, like just all of this stuff that doesn't even matter. If you are solidly in yourself, apostrophe, big ELF, okay, you won't care about whether you have Elven bloodline or, whatever. Like, you won't even care about your identity versus another person's identity. You're going to just know like that you belong, but then your big heart chakra is going to be open and say, okay, so here is myself and my sovereignty and like what I give to the world. And here's my talents and here's my purpose. Okay. But how does it fit in with the larger picture? And doing that through love is a really good idea. And then, yes, having the foresight. So, I guess it's all 3, of those chakras like activated.
Yeah, no, well said. Absolutely. And also, too, the lower chakras, it was interesting that you were saying that. Something that I always say is that, the lower chakras are about grounding us back to earth. And that is so important for us because there's been a lot of looking towards space and can we make a planet habitable for us if we destroy the earth? Let's not make a plan B. Let's actually right now focus on earth. And I think that is also part of it, is being present and in the now and really focused on this is your home, and starseeds, we have that issue. Sometimes we feel like this is your home. We're just visiting and, oh, earth is yucky, and like there's a part
yeah, busted.
There's a part of us that has
busted
to down to earth and say, well, I'm here now. I was born here on earth. I have to make this my home, or this is my home. This is my home. This is my life. This is my home. And I think that is so important because it's about grounding yourself to earth and grounding yourself and bringing that interconnection to humanity and becoming, really truly a harmonious being, which is really what the elves represent. They represent harmony, not discord, which is really when notes decide to play their own parts without listening to each other. That's what discord is. And it sounds terrible because they're not listening to the harmonic sounds of coming together. And so the elves represent harmony. And I think that if we could bring that into the elven organization rather than separation, which is sometimes what the Otherkin communities do. And hey, I'm guilty of it because I called myself an Otherkin as well. And sometimes I've done some videos that have definitely spoken about that. But I do think that if we can focus on the harmony aspect and keep our heart open, as you said, and keep our crown chakra divinely connected to all beings, we can remember ourselves as having a part in this world. And I think that that's so important for elven souls, or, you know, elves that say that they come from certain bloodlines that are separate from humanity, which I do believe, because I know that fairies do like to mess around with humans. It has happened.
Yeah.
How many
How
times?
many legends? You had Morgan Daimler on your channel,
Yeah.
you know, recently, and yeah, the fairy expert of the world. By the way, if you guys don't know, look
Yeah.
her up, Morgan Daimler.
And Tolkien, in his speech on fairy stories, on his essay on
Yes.
the fairy queen, would take human men, you know, not maliciously, but she would seduce
Yeah.
them. She would enchant them with her beauty. And this is something that you see a lot in other cultures, is some elemental spirit that enchants humans and mates with them. It's kind of like the Nephilim, but it's different. And you could probably speak about that more, because the Nephilim is really Hebrew for giants. And the
I was going to say, I just think it's a different kind of being, and so there's different, like, I guess, what do you call it, nuances or different energies.
Yeah.
However, I do think that there was similar purposes of, like, in that I think that a lot of beings covet human bodies. Okay, like, and I mean, I see this, like, when I do, like, say, energy work or healing and stuff, and you see that, like, that there's energy, like, riders or things that are on, you know, people, and it's like you can almost see that it's like, oh, they are so much wanting to be human that they're, like, trying to control that human body, you know, like on an energy level, something. And I'm not saying that that is a good idea. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there's possession.
But there are beings out there that want humans so much. So it doesn't surprise me that other beings would want to be human or want to merge with humanity, because I will be honest with you, everything I've read about our human origins, you know, from whether it's, you know, whether it's religious material, whether it's just stories, or whether it's science, whether it's like, I don't care what you look at, it's unique. And there is a lot of power in humans. Okay. And there is so much that we can do. And we are at the tipping point. And I think that as the earth rises in its vibration, so, you know what, since the 40s, or at least this is my knowledge, of, you know, like, what's been going on with the vibration of the planet, where the earth said enough and says, I'm going to be a loving planet. And so I'm going to raise my energy up, and everybody and everything that's on earth must also rise with me, but also knew that, like, that would kill everybody if it was done too fast, right? So because humans have like a privilege, but also, you know, it's kind of like a heavy responsibility, that we all have our own individual contracts. So some of us are going to be like, okay, yes, we're going to sign up for the new earth energy. Okay, so we're, like, having all the cleansing reactions and all of the stuff, like with the Schumann resonance and everything that's raising right now. And then other humans, like, maybe they're not even aware of it or anything, but, like, on a soul level, they're like, nah, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to, you know, I'm not going to be a part of the new earth song. I'm going to be a part of the old earth song. And that is their right. They can do that. So I think that Kimber L is right in that we've already been seeing kind of this separation between the humans that chose to vibrate with the earth and all the creatures on the earth. Okay, and the people that are, like, choosing not to do that at, like, the soul level, and it's all okay. However, that being said, when human consciousness does do that tipping point, and we're really close, you guys. Keep doing the love, okay? Like, keep doing that. We're really close. When it tips, it's going to be that discordant song of the earth singing much louder than the people that did not want to choose the new song. Okay. And they're not going to be able to like deal with that. Okay. It's one song or the other song. Like, it's not going to be able to be like where you could out-sing them. You know what I mean? Like, try to out-sing the earth. It's not going to really happen. Okay. So again, this is what I think about, like, when I think about, like, isn't it interesting that we are figuring out that the earth has a song and we measure it through this human resonance. And it's almost like all of us that have the elven path that is just in us in some way, it doesn't matter how, but we know that that's part of our thing. It's almost like we are going to be singing the new song at the end of the third song. And we might be really close right now to that. Just FYI.
And I guess I could just say that just keep, like you said, keep your heart open, and the idea that, you know, if we are singing this new song, then we want to make sure that it's one of friendship and harmony and love, rather than the separation song, which is what elves have sang in the past. Fairies and elves are known for being separated from humans, from withdrawing their light from earth. And now we're coming together. And I do feel that that's kind of what's happening. And I do feel that that's something that we're definitely going to see, I think, happen in the future more, is that people are going to come together, because let's be honest, eventually this world, this universe has a singularity point. I mean, that all things come back together. I mean, scientists say that the universe it's stretched out and now it's coming back slowly. And what that will look like is that people will mentally, spiritually, and emotionally come together. And so if you want to be, you could choose to be part of that coming together, or you could choose to be part of the withdrawing and fight against it. But when you fight against it, you're not in alignment with the way that the universe is moving, the way that the whole universal consciousness is moving, you know, Eru, Luvatar, if we want to say.
Yeah.
And
well, at least Earth, for sure. I mean, at least Earth. I'm not so sure about the rest of the universe, because I hear scientifically it's still expanding. It's
expanding, but they say that it will one day come back.
Absolutely. I agree with that. Well, I think that it'll all come back, because, like Einstein, I believe in Einstein's theory of like, everything already exists and it's just takes different forms.
I absolutely agree. And that's kind of what I think that we just have to keep in mind, is that we are all from Prime Source. We're all one, no matter how different we may feel. And we, as elven souls, as elves, as non-elves in the spiritual path, if you want to join us, we could just be examples of that kind of coming together, and bringing that sense of unity together, but still, you know, explore our differences and our diversity for a temporary time while we can, you know, and I think that is really the main thing. That's, I guess, the important thing. Do you want to say anything else more?
Just let's sing our song in harmony. Okay. All of us have an individual part. That's where our sovereignty comes in. And I understand about exploring who you are so that you know that part. I get that. But then come back to human, okay? Come back to where we are. Come back to that place of love. And let's all sing the song in harmony this time.
And I'm so glad that you said that, because, you know, that's something that I have recently kind of awakened to, is coming back into my human self, because I kind of was away from it.
But you needed to explore that. You totally needed to do that so that you could come. You got to know where you're coming from in order to know where you're going. So I totally get that.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you stay stuck in that, that's where it gets weird, right?
Well, yeah, because then you start to really disengage from others, and then you feel really isolated and really alone.
Yes.
And there's a part of me that always feels that kind of isolation. And I know what other people are feeling. I know that a lot of my audience, they feel like that.
Absolutely. Well, part of it is because of the pain of being cut off.
Yeah.
And by the way, many humans through trauma. family, through society, through, like how many like thousands of things can cause trauma that separates us and says, no, you have to survive, and just shuts that part off. And then, we end up with, really spiritual illness from that. So I totally understand, like, feeling that separateness. I totally get that. And part of one of the things that I would like to put into the Elven Path, just on the list of like services and stuff, is actually doing healing of trauma. I would really like to put that on the list, because holy moly, are humans completely trauma ridden. Absolutely.
I put it on the list as far as we could, when people start feeling more comfortable, we could start to offer, workshops in areas that maybe wouldn't be able to pay for it, or things like that. I mean, we can definitely get into that. I think the future is bright in that way, where we could offer our time and our services to help others. Those that have reached a point of healing in our own lives, we can give it back to others that are just not yet there, and they just kind of need that reminder, and they're looking for that anchor in a way, to help ground them back into their selves.
That's why I did the rituals in the way that we do, like with the grounding to the earth, and then the opening to the sky, through the tree, paradigm. Is part of that is to access those energies that will clear our traumas, and like some of them I want to be gentle. Okay, so we clear all of those things. However, there's an aspect that can't be done just from doing ritual, and that is the aspect of helping the personality unlearn the bad habits. Okay, this is like therapy and things like that come in. Okay, that we can't do on a large scale, but what we can do is maybe, have ways for people that when they are in crisis and go, oh my gosh, I'm like, I'm open now, like, and my heart hurts, because their trauma is like opened up again, and how do they get through that place of pain, reliving that trauma, but yet make a different choice, make a different new habit that is not based on the trauma, because it's got to be released. And so part of the spiritual path, like by doing the rituals and some of the things we do, they release a lot of the conditioning, like the residual stuff that you don't really need in your energy field anymore, because the earth is raising in its vibration. Okay, so you don't need a lot of that crap anymore. But it's going to get to a place where you're going, wait a minute, now it's conflicting with what I've always known in my survival habits. It's one of those things that, like, where humans go through a thing where if it's unknown, it's unsafe. Okay, so they go back to the known, which might be still a trauma-laden place that has unhealthy patterns, and they don't know what to do. So I would like very much for the Elven Path to have ways to address those traumas, and also work with the spiritual aspect as well as the personality aspect at the same time, because you can't really do one without the other.
I'm writing it all down in my mind. We'll have videos like that. You and I will do that.
Yes.
One of the things also that came to mind about Elven Bloodlines, this is something really important. Those who have an Elven bloodline, that their family has thought that they have been part of, either having elf blood or fairy blood, whatever kind of fae that you think you may be from, dwarves, gnomes, fairies itself, or elves. One of the things too that's really important about trauma is also there also has been fights between certain elven clans and fairy. I mean, so it's also really important too that those with elven bloodlines also kind of release some of the trauma that also is tied to those elven bloodlines, which is, I know it might sound strange to people, but just intuitively, this is something that I have been kind of getting deeper into my own past and realizing. So a lot of people right now, they're thinking very superficially like, oh, I have elven bloodline. I'm perfect. Everything's perfect. No, there's also a karmic type of tie to that elven bloodline. There's a reason why you're working out your karmic trauma right now that's also tied to those elven bloodlines. So another great way of basically dropping that type of trauma is also by kind of not disassociating with it, but just not putting so much emphasis on the identity of having those elven bloodlines, but rather focusing on yourself. Are you healing yourself in this lifetime? Are you focused on your own life in this time? And what can you do and bring to humanity? That's also kind of important because I do feel that there's some trauma that's involved also with some of the fairy and the elven bloodlines that people do feel that they stem from. I feel deeply that my own family has some kind of trauma, whether it be persecution or whether it be fights between other clans, whatever it is. I do feel that there is a way of releasing that trauma as an elven soul, or in today's world, and part of that is about us moving out of that past and moving into the future, merging with humanity. And one thing I wanted to say about the Nephilim and the fairies mating with other humans is the idea that I think spiritually, if you just take that event, just that idea that even exists in this world, if you just take that for an abstract idea of what that means is actually a merging of two beings coming together. The idea of bringing that back. So not only is it seen in a negative way, but it's also kind of a joining with humanity, that elves and fairies and those that are other beings outside of human race wanted to join with humanity. So humans are not the low end on the totem pole at all. And I think that that's really important that we establish as elven souls or as otherkins or whoever we are. We have to understand we're here to merge with our human selves in the way that our ancestors did as well, helping seed the human population in a way. And I posted something on my Instagram. There was something interesting that Tolkien said that, early humans were more like hobbits, like the Neanderthals, like really, just like the pygmies, hobbits. But there's also another type of ancestral lineage that's more like the elves, and we can get into that with our star heritage in a way. But what I am really coming to terms with is that we have both of those. We have the hobbit, we have the elves, we have the human aspect, and it's about kind of what you want to bring forwards. And there's advantages to all of them, right? I mean, humans, hobbits, and elves are different in Tolkien's stories, and they're different in the collective of humanity as well, the way that we think of these beings. So it's kind of about, I guess, just bringing all of aspects of ourselves into alignment, into oneness, and feeling also a oneness and an interconnection to all of humanity as well. And that is so important because when we do that, we start to bring basically the world into alignment. We start to bring the universe into alignment with us, because in the end, everything is all one. And when we get to that source of oneness within ourselves, we start to radiate that outward and really start to experience that reality of oneness. And that's just something that I have learned, just in my awakening, just kind of remembering to do that, to bring all aspects of myself into alignment and not shun any part of myself, not disassociate myself. And that's really important. And I think, sadly, sometimes otherkins, when people say, oh, I'm a cat or I'm a dog, they get made fun of by the human population because the humans who are watching them are like, you're human, you're in a human body, what are you doing? Get off on your fours. So there's an aspect of the human population that is trying to almost bring that otherkin into alignment with themselves, to feel comfortable with all aspects of themselves. And then on the other hand, the human audience that is watching the otherkin is also supposed to maybe kind of awaken to an understanding that, hey, human beings is not so cut and dry, that there's multi-dimensions to us. And it's about what you want to bring out and forward in the world more. And I do think that in the future, we're going to have a lot more dimensions to humans. And that's really what we're going to see is
I think so too.
Yeah.
I actually think so too. And in fact, I was just thinking of like how the shamanic aspects, I'm not trying to, use that word incorrectly, but I don't know what else to call it, for, shape shifting and things that allows you, like even martial arts would teach, their students how to blend with tiger energy so that they could attack and things like that. And so I think about, like we could even say that it's a shape shifting or other kinds of things that are happening. They don't have to necessarily be otherkin. It could just be like that you shift into a different kind of thing. And so maybe for some of you, it's like, excuse me, elf, like you shape shift into elvenness. And like when we use the props and some of that kind of stuff, it might help you shift into that place. And then after a while, you kind of really don't need to shapeshift that anymore. Like you don't need those things that help you. Maybe like at one point in your, in your journey, you like when you say, okay, I'm going to put on the elf ears and I'm going to do all of this stuff. And I think about, like the shape shifting and how it helped early on. It did help me like think like an elf. You know what I'm saying? Like it helped me because it gave my body something to do that kept it busy so that I could expand the soul part. Okay. And then after a while, like you get to a place where like you do so many Elven rituals, you do all of this stuff. And then pretty soon, like it's just a layer over you. And then people who are psychic and may not know about you, they'll go, what's different about you? They'll just totally, they can't like really put their finger on what's going on because you have that in your energy because you work with it constantly. Okay, so that's happened to me a few times. The other thing that I was going to talk about is it's really good that you brought up like not just our trauma in our lifetime in this particular incarnation as a human, but we do carry our past life karmas, okay? And we carry oftentimes our ancestral line karmas. So they're all different ones. And we are responsible, like one of the things that we're doing in our coming in and growing spiritually is to clear these imprints of trauma from the lines so that they don't pass on to, like future generations. Okay. So there's that. And then also like our past lives, like that they don't keep going into our next soul, like, incarnation. So there's like lots of different layers and planes and all of this kind of stuff that these things happen on. And we are really busy clearing a lot of stuff right now. And I'm sure, Kimberell, that you could probably relate with this. There's a lot of collective stuff, this residual that like is just, it's kind of casted off. It's not really like sent back to source to reform into. So we're constantly like saying, okay, residual this or that or the other from, like I could walk by a stranger in a store sometimes and feel that stuff coming off, and that it needs to go to the source. You just say, okay, send this to the source. And we're constantly sending a lot of energies of traumas being casted off to the source right now. And I think because the energies of the earth are raising, and a lot of humans, they don't even know it, but they're dumping their stuff. Okay. And that's good. But then we have to like send it to the source so that it like can reform into love, and then bring it back into healing, and then raise the earth vibration. Do you guys see how this is a circle? Okay. And it just keeps going and going. And one day we're going to shift the whole thing, and humans will be all like 3, 4, and 5D at the same time. Okay. And then we'll be able to fix all the earth problems. How cool is that going to be?
Yeah, I think we will even, I think the 3D humans that are, in that place, in that dimension, will actually join into the 4th and 5th.
Some of them, I think that when they see, they just might not know it's possible. Yeah. But if they have love in their heart and then they see like things happening, they may go, hey, it's time to wake up. So there might be a lot of if you will, last minute, contract shifts, if you will.
Yeah.
That because we don't really know who's going to, shift and who's not going to shift, because it's everybody's own business. Okay. They have their own contracts.
Yeah.
Okay. Everybody has their own contracts, even kids. Okay. Even, old people, everything. Everybody has their own contracts. Even and then we could even go into the layers of country contracts, or, particular group contracts. There's lots of layers to this. Okay. But I believe that all of the group contracts could be even overrun if a person in a very loving space says, I choose that. They can do it.
What would be, let's get back to the Elven bloodline, because I think that that's really important. We can kind of end this towards this conclusion. What would be our, I guess, our fear is if we went in the direction of bringing more the idea of Elven clans or Elven bloodlines into the organization. What do you think that would do in terms of the future of humanity?
Well, I don't want to get rid of the whole idea of it by itself, because I think that it could be an important aspect for people to learn more about their role, in their sovereign role, once they open their heart and then they see all of the stuff. And I think that it might be an important part of the journey. The danger is if they get stuck in the identity piece of it versus oh, I'm this, and either what you were talking about, they separate themselves and they withdraw from society and do this type of thing, or that they become antagonistic and say, I'm better than you, okay, because I have this and that and the other, okay. And these things are not, neither one of them is based on love, okay. The first one is not of love of the self, and that is bad, okay. And the second one is about not love of others, also bad, okay. We don't want either one of those, okay. We want you to love yourselves, okay, bloodline or not, okay, because whatever bloodline you chose as a human this time, you have a special job on the planet. All of you, okay, every one of you. You all have a special job. I don't know what they are, okay, because I half the time don't even know what mine is, except that, I just live it out. And the way to really, find that is to clear off the conditioning and raise our vibration and be as loving as possible. And more download will come if that's what's happening. The other danger that I could see happening with this whole, Elven path is identified with bloodline, let's just, as if we would do something like that, it could become like a cultist movement versus a spiritual movement. I see that differently. I might be using the incorrect words, but again, it's about, you know, the idea of separation, i.e. we're better, or we just don't want anything to do with you, or we're scared of you. Okay, whatever it is, like separation versus unity about like, yes, we are all different. We all have diversity and we all can come together and do something really awesome. And that is what I see for the Elven path. I see so many of our diversities, and I mean, not only diversities of bloodlines, but diversities of religious backgrounds, cultural backgrounds, everywhere around the world. Okay. And if Elven energy means anything to you, come to this path, because we are unifying the energies of the Elven wisdom that is demonstrated, in our humble opinion, best by Tolkien stories.
Wise words. I think you said that really well. Yeah, absolutely. Just the idea that we really want to just bring that to head, and the idea of going forward, we just don't want it to become an identity path, but rather more of a spiritual path, one full of wisdom and one full of knowledge of what Tolkien was trying to convey in his stories, but really not so much about the Otherkin identity path. Although those that are Otherkin, like me, and those that identify that way, are absolutely welcome into this path. But when we do teach, and when we give the responsibility to others to teach and hold their own kind of workshops and meetings at their homes or wherever they want to hold it, we just would appreciate you not to bring in the idea of ego identity. It's not about having Elven bloodline or being from wherever you were in your past. It's about where can you go in the future, or where are you in the present. And that's kind of more, I guess, the message that I wanted to leave, because I think sometimes we think too much about the past, and we can get lost in the past, because technically the past, it didn't happen in a way that we can really go back into and decipher. All we have is our intuitive feelings, and we can trace back our bloodline, and we can see our family ties, but we also don't know what the energy is there. And we bring that into our present life, and we bring all of that ancestral baggage back to the surface. And what I have seen too happen is there could be possibly a fight in the future, which is kind of funny to think about. It's kind of like Shannara Chronicles, the idea of like Elven bloodlines kind of fighting for, I guess, I don't want to say power, but sort of, I guess, power, like who has more Elven bloodline, like, or who has more Elven DNA in their bloodline. So then it becomes more of this like competitiveness between the, you know, the ones of from Norway, from you know, the Native Americans to Ireland and Scotland. It's like, then you start to try to be competitive in the idea of who's more Elven in soul or in your bloodline. I feel like we could just leave all that in the past and really just focus on who we are in the present and who we want to be.
Who we want to be.
Yeah.
Yes. And who we want to be and have access to that.
Yeah. And that's really, I guess, where we want to go, because, you know, we could open the floodgates to this whole Otherkin, you know, phenomena and pathway. And I was ready to do it, but I guess we just wanted to put some kind of just precautions, you know, about doing it in this way, of making it more about personal identity rather than the wisdom that you can come to through this path. And just reminder that you're here on this earth and you are working at your jobs with other people who do not associate themselves with elves, or they may not feel that way, and it's just about keeping your heart space open and accepting everybody for where they are, and not seeing yourself as so different, because that could be the pathway of pride. And the elves were known for that, and that's something I will get into when I talk about some of the darker pathways that elves can take. But pride is one of the things that Tolkien said was one of the sins of the elves. Pride is something that many people can easily get into when they start kind of delving into their elven identity. So I just want to be a reminder about that in the elven spiritual path, we're going to be very clear about how we can move past pride, and it's more about our harmonious living with others. And maybe Calatirniel and I are satisfying some kind of ancestral,
Oh, there could be that. And I was just going to say, I think pride also definitely applies to humans too. And let me just be clear, because there's some people that say, well, no, you need to be proud of, like, your accomplishments and where you're from, and like, okay, to a point. Okay, yes, we need to be in a space of alignment of our sovereignty and knowing who we are, etc. I totally agree with that. Let me explain the difference between pride of who you are at a deep core level, okay, and then identifying with your accomplishments or whatever it is, as if that is what it is that you're supposed to be doing. So I'm sure that this will be one of your other videos, but the thing is that Feanor, when he created the Silmarils with such amazing genius, became identified with them so much that he sacrificed his people. That's what happened. Okay, she should have been proud of his accomplishment. I get it, but not so much that he identified with it so much that he literally couldn't think of anything else. But maybe that's part of the story about sometimes the genius can like float in those lines of, places that, when you are that smart, like that is a danger to be that. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, that might be part of the Tolkien story also, is that when you get near those areas, like, watch out for those things. Okay, watch out that you are not in a loving energy anymore. It's not just about the creation. It's like you start to covet it or something. Then it's a problem. Okay.
Yeah, it's a delicate line, and I do hope that in the Elven Light University that I go through that line gently with others so that they can know, because I have touched that line. I have jumped back from that line. I have felt it within me. I know that a lot of people that associate themselves with elves and are awakening into their elven selves, they may have that tendency, like I said, to disassociate themselves from the humans that are acting archaically. It's like, yeah, we get it, but it's very important that we don't come from a place of arrogance and like we're better or anything like that, but it's more about just admitting where we are and where we still have to go, and what we can do with our gifts as we awaken into our elven selves. Because every single one of you that kind of tap into your elven self, you're going to unleash a part of you that's dormant in you, that, these psychic abilities and these powers. It's really about getting in touch with your intuition. There are things that are going to start happening in your life. It happened for me. When I made this channel about 2-3 years ago, I was just starting to open up that door because I was giving myself permission to come out more. And as I'm a very different person than I was in the beginning than I am today. And it has a lot to do with aging, but it's also about walking this path. And many of you may start to realize that when you embrace the way of the elves and you start to consciously remember the elven nature that Tolkien talked about, it will start to change your life in a way. And you just have to remember that as you ascend to higher levels, you always want to remember those also that may be still behind. And it's not in a way of thinking you're better or anything. It's just knowing where you are and then being able to give a hand to others if they are asking for it. If they're not asking for it, then you simply allow them the experience, and you allow them, obviously there's lines, because you don't want people to hurt themselves and things like that, and you could be more direct with your approach, but it's about allowing people to have their soul contract, like you said, and their experience, and not judging them while doing so. And I think that if we can make elves or those that can the humans become their elven selves more in an idea of alignment of love, non-arrogance, we can get away and bypass from that pride that Tolkien said actually kind of tainted the ages of the elves, several of the bloodlines of the elves. And if we can move past that, maybe we could learn from even Tolkien's message about pride, and maybe we can make it better, the next time. And I do feel like Tolkien was saying that a little bit about humanity, was that humanity had something that the elves did not, and there was a theme that Eru was saving for mankind that even the elves did not know about, and that I think is something that we should definitely take to heart, is that we're coming in now in this lifetime, and we can see the messages of the elves and understand where their wisdom came from, and also where was their faults and where did they slip up in the past. Maybe that's something that we can learn as well. One of the ways that I do feel that we can enter into the path of pride, arrogance, and all that is by focusing too much on the identity, the ego identity. So we must always remember that it's a delicate balance. You have your self-expression, you have your, you are you, and you are special, and you look different, and you act different, and you are you, but you're also part of a greater story, and you're interconnected with others. So how do you allow that delicate, I guess, balance, or that graceful dance between self-expression and going back to the whole, and then coming back to self-expression and going back to the whole? And that's something that takes some time to learn, but I think that the elves kind of mastered it in the Third Age, and that's something that we can take as an example. And so I think that's just something that we wanted to say, is that when we have the Spiritual Path organization, when we launch that, we just hope that people represent themselves in a way where they're not disassociating themselves from humanity, but rather figuring out how to apply their elven wisdom in a way that expands on their humanity and expands on others, around them.
That's awesome, because you know what? I didn't even think of that till just now. We've been, and by the way, it's partly because of the name of our path, the Elven Spiritual Path. So we talk about the qualities of the elves that we want to bring back to humanity. But you know what, Kimberell? Damn good point. We need to talk about a little bit about the good parts of humans, and that was totally something that Tolkien actually addressed in his stories. So where we have the elven wisdom and foresight, okay, so that they kind of knew what to do, and they were very intuitive, and they also were very refined and all of these types of things. What part did the humans demonstrate? Because, first off, we had the issue of that we became mortal versus immortal, like the elves, and us, they were, killed in battle, right? So because of that mortality, we didn't learn as much as elves could. But guess what that did? That then made humans more brave to go forward because they didn't know. You see what I'm saying? So that is a quality of humans that elves might look at and go, wow, that was really brave of them to go, you know, like just go kill the corpse or whatever, like without planning ahead or whatever it was. Like they just go do it, right? So that spontaneity and that bravery is something that humans demonstrate in the stories. So that's, you know, they have weaknesses too, because they can be easily like manipulated and all of that kind of stuff. And again, that has a lot to do with trauma and all of that, but we'll get back to that. The other gift, because of the mortality, is that they went directly to Iluvatar, the all that is, okay, when they passed away. And then Iluvatar was the only one that knew what would happen to humans. So the elves, because they had more of a contract with the earth, which is another reason we have the elven path, because we feel in some ways that many of us feel that we are stewards of the earth the way that elves were. Okay, men are not. They are free of that contract, which is why they can go right to Iluvatar. They didn't have to go to, you know, Amon and then get judged by Namo and Manwe and then like stay on Amon until the end of the world. That is what the elves do. And I do think that humans, it's possible for us, once we go to Iluvatar, that like, let's say that we're elven in our energy, like that, you know, Iluvatar may go, hey, you know, you're going to go to Amon. Now, we don't know this from the stories, but we go directly to Iluvatar. Okay, we go to Eru Iluvatar. That is a gift according to the elves and according to Tolkien. So we don't want to be human bashing either, okay?
I actually want to say two things and then we'll go. This is
okay.
But this is good. So in Tolkien's fairy story on fairy story that I just read on my other video, I want to read two things. So I didn't read this on the other video, but I will now. The road to fairyland is not the road to heaven, nor even to hell, I believe, though some have held that it may lead thither indirectly by the devil's tithe. So there's this understanding too that those of us with elven soul contracts or fairy contracts or whatever you want to say, if you come in with like a consciousness block of the fairy or the elf, understand too that you are also on this pathway to improve yourself in a way, like it's not just a given that you're automatically, you know, ascending to, like you said, to heaven. Because even Tolkien said is that fairyland is not to heaven or to hell. It's kind of in a purgatory state.
It's in its own place.
Yeah. So a lot of us elven souls are actually here. I'm bringing some secrets out for you guys here, is also to ascend. You too are ascending along with humanity as well. And maybe you'll remember that as I tell you this, because it's something that I'm remembering within myself. And I just think that that's really important. One of the things that he said was, let us not divide the human race into Eloi and Murlocs, pretty children. Elves are the Eloi, and Murloc were the dark goblins tending their machines. He wanted to make sure that humanity did not divide themselves. So we are going to honor that in the Elven Spiritual Organization. We are not going to divide humanity. We are going to bring humans together through the Elven way, which is kind of interesting. It's different. But I believe that it makes sense, and it will make sense when humans awaken more to their origins, more to where they feel naturally happiest in nature. And not even happiest, but maybe in a quiet space of remembering their selves. Amongst all your drama in your life, if you go and sit under a tree and you just quiet your mind, like the Buddha did a long time ago, you will remember your true self. That's the gift that nature can give you. And that, I think, is so important, that what we can bring as a reminder with our elven souls in this time, we could just be that reminder to humans to remember nature is a pathway towards peace. It really is. There's so much I can say on this topic, because the idea is that bringing more nature abundantly in the world, in the minds of others, in our world, will feed more, we'll have better housing situations and shelter and things like that. It's going to better our world. Nature is actually going to better our world when we learn how to become true stewards of it and true guardians of it, like the elves were of Arda.
I would agree with that. And I'll go further and say that, to me, nature is balance.
Yes.
Like, and it's a dynamic balance, because it does sway way out and then sway way back. But it eventually, there is, you know, a system of the cycles, okay, the creation cycle and the death cycle, but it's all in balance. So when things leave, you know, things come in. And so it doesn't always look like pretty, beautiful, whatever. I mean, nature is like, you know, like drought, nature is hunting, nature is all of those things too. Okay. But it's in balance. It balances itself. And that's something that I believe that we are striving for also, is the balance.
I agree. I mean, this is going to be the first spiritual organization, I guess, of that we're attempting to create with the Elven Way, but we wanted to really put that out there. This is going to stay on YouTube. So in the future, when people try to say, oh, the elves are trying to separate themselves, or these people, they think they're elves and they're trying to separate themselves, and we now have this video in record saying that we never intended that. We, as the co-founders who originated this, we never intended that. I can't tell you what's going to happen in the future, because even the wisest cannot tell, as the Tolkien quote says. But I know that Calatirniel, Alira, Dave Woosley, and I, as a co-founder, we never intend for this to divide humanity. No Shannara Chronicles. Okay, this is not what we're hoping.
No.
We're actually hoping that this actually helps to unite people together more. So,
and at the same time, still very much like revere in your individuality. Okay, so it's like simultaneous, like you are everything and you are a little dot, like a drop in the ocean at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay, it's simultaneous.
Yeah, it is. It's a delicate balance. It really is. I think people can understand it intuitively, in the idea of kind of the self-expression and then going back to the whole, self-expression going back to the whole. So I guess I just wanted to have this on record, and I will also make sure that I blog about it. But this is us saying right now that we are not going to focus so much on Elven clans or Elven bloodline or our self-identity. We're not going to come on and say, we are from the kin of elves, charge with us into the world. You know, it's not about that. Although that would be fun in a way, but at the same time, it's not really what we intend to do. And so we're going on record to say this, and we hope that our members who are part of the organization, and we're going to get the membership book, we're going to launch the website very soon.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to give us?
We're still working on that, and I can't wait until we also launch our symbol. Ooh, like we have some, you know, just getting new news about that. It's going to be so awesome. So zip it, Lisa. But I also wanted to say about the Elven, you know, energy and whatnot. Okay, like that. Like where Kimberell was talking about, like that we go into the unity of it all and like reflect on our piece, our diverse piece that is only unique to us, that we bring to it. If any of you are interested in the Elven identity piece, because we have to make a line in the sand, we cannot help you figure that out. Okay, I'm gonna say no. Okay, tell me what elf family I belong to. Tell me what elven energy I belong to. I'm going to say, no, you do that either on your own or figure out like with other people or whatever, because I do understand your need to do that. But please, once you discover or once you get some information or once you do all of this, and it's probably going to conflict. Okay. I mean, I'm not going to lie. Okay. Because just everybody has different lenses of everything. Come back with your heart open and come be part of everything with us. Okay, that's all I'm gonna say.
I think that was a good ending. So that's what we want to say. And going forward, we are just going to remind people that to be a representative of our organization, we just want to make sure that we do that in the idea that we really focus on our unity and bringing people together rather than the self-identity, which is good on your own, and we love that, and we encourage that type of exploration. But as far as becoming a teacher of the Elven spiritual path, we don't want you to teach through self-identity. We want you to teach through the spirit of unity and harmony with others. And it's a delicate line, it is, but I believe that everybody can discover that line for themselves when they put themselves into the shoes of others and they think about what others would feel if they came across someone who started talking about their Elven bloodlines or things like that. If you use empathy, then you might refrain from saying certain things. But it's fine in terms of building your own kind of community and everything like that. It's just in terms of a spiritual organization like us, we just have to have the bigger picture in focus.
Yeah.
So we're going.
Yeah, we're not saying that you can't know your identity. We're just going to say that that's not our job. So we're drawing a line in the sand. You're going to have to go elsewhere for that. Preferably, you do it through yourself in your own meditation. Honestly, because, or your own, like, for instance, if it's genealogy, like, you do it through that or whatever. But I'm just saying, be very careful of what other people tell you who you are too, because a lot of them are not aligned very well. Okay. And I'm talking about that they might be, that they crowned themselves grand poobah of whatever something or other. So you be very careful of where you get your information. Yeah. Double check that stuff and vet it yourself.
You've had some experience with people.
Yes, I have.
So that is why we are coming from a place of experience and also looking forward of what could happen in terms of different possibilities and pathways. And so that, I think, is really all we wanted to say. But we are so excited for everything to start coming out. The membership book will be pretty much out, I think, like in a month or so?
I'm hoping, like, we're praying for by Solvaweris, okay? It might be by the Elven New Year, but we're really trying to make it by Solvaweris, which is in the Gregorian calendar around the 1st of February.
The 1st of February. Okay, so
cross fingers.
Keep your eyes on that, my fellow Elvikins and friends of the elves that are part of the organization. If you are new to my channel and you want to know more about this, please follow High Elven Wisdom and Love Facebook page and also our Tia Elda Lieva Facebook page, which gives you all of information about that. And then that way you could start to become a member of our organization and help build it together. Because one thing we want to say is that we really do need your help, because we're just kind of putting maybe the first few bricks out there, but we need everybody to take a brick and start to build it with us.
That'd be great. And by the way, guys, if you're not on the mailing list, get on the mailing list, because we have some serious goodies on there. Really good ones. Yeah. And yeah. Also on the mailing list, because I've had people asking me about, hey, I'm already on the list. And then when I signed up again, MailChimp said I was already on the list, so they didn't give me the backlink in order to get the new goodies. I'm going to be sending an email to all of you. So like look in your inbox probably this week, okay, with the backlink of where to get all of this stuff. And part of it is going to be the, if you will, free version when we come up with that of the membership book so that you guys can have something to start with.
And I wanted to say the Elven Light University is also a Facebook page that.
Oh, the group. That's right.
Yeah, the group.
That's right. It's a Facebook group.
Yep, and it has all the links, and it will have the resources needed for some of the things that Calatirniel is speaking about. So I guess that's all we wanted to say.
Up on 2 hours exactly. Look at this.
All right,
bye, y'all.
Namarie.